Good evening, welcome. This is yours to the Wiz. Welcome to Wiz on Saturday. If you're joining for the first time, I'm an award-winning author, digital publisher, and also book coach. So I essentially help leaders and entrepreneurs accentuate their voices in the marketplace, and of course, primarily through the power of a book. Hope you guys are doing well. You can drop a comment below so I can acknowledge you. It's Saturday. Who's doing what tonight? Hope you guys had a good week. It's Saturday. Welcome to the show. In a moment, I'll market updates, and then I'll give you three common mistakes that new authors make. After that, but at the moment, in the next few minutes, these are market updates. Lots of things happening in the market, and some good news as well. We're starting to see, I think, the COVID cases in Melbourne, the rise starting to be very starting to come down a big way. So it looks like we're on track for the dead set in terms of threshold, and seeing the lifting of restrictions. And of course, another round is coming on the 20th of September, particularly for Melbourne. So I'm interested in how we shape up by the end of the week. We'll see how that translates as we get into the 28th, and of course moving into October and stuff like that. And at the same time, as if it's a bit of an arrow, it's a bit of iron in there. We're starting to see as well across Europe some restrictions starting to hit back again. Yeah, it's crazy. Talk of vaccines, a lot of things happening. But welcome. I was just thinking this morning, the other day, I think after this morning, that we're just like pretty much basically about less than 100 days for Christmas. Can you believe that? Welcome. If you're watching the replay as well, you can comment below, hashtag replay. But if you're watching now, of course, you're welcome to leave a comment and I can acknowledge you. Lots of Zoom calls happening, I guess, tonight. I think I'm going to be on another one tonight about 9ish. That's a business one as well. Look forward to that. Be a good one. And I don't know if you guys let me know if there's such a thing called Zoom dates. That's what's pretty much over the last couple of months that has popped up as well. Zoom dates. I'm like, okay, very interesting phenomenon. But it's a whole deal. It's a whole deal by itself. But we keep it positive vibe. In a moment, our market updates, and then shortly after that, we're gonna look at three common mistakes that a lot of new authors make. Welcome. Wiz on Saturday. This is just to Louise. All right. So yeah, what a week this has been, and one of the things that we saw this past week is, of course, news to the fact that I think Alan Joyce pretty much took an 83% pay cut in the last financial year, and that's basically meant that I think from around April as well, just about April to July, he wasn't taking salary, and of course that of course has to do with the whole COVID situation. And one thing I think one must say is also, of course, don't forget that Alan Joyce is a top performer when it comes to corporate changes and corporate shifts and stuff like that. Because remember that at one point, Qantas was a profit, was making losses, but of course, when Alan Joyce came in, he was able to turn around that and to bring it into profitability. But of course, this is a whole new ball game altogether relating to COVID. I know in the very first few months when this whole thing began, a lot of the airlines, including Virgin, seemed to be strength, but they had no idea how long this was going to be. And then, of course, within a month or two after that, we saw what happened to Virgin with another foreign buyer, going for it and stuff like that. And of course, we know as well that Tiger is pretty much wiped off the market or wiped off the face of the earth. If you want to be more dramatic, and that sort of thing. And of course, people always talk about exemplary leadership. So let's say leading by example, and of course, him taking 80% pay cut. I think was a good example in terms of the needing to sacrifice when push comes to shove, as opposed to jump ship or anything like that. But I think it's a commendable thing. Interesting, of course, that we shall see is more restrictions lift off. Hopefully by December we should be seeing a lot of movement, and of course starting to see those airlines begin to breathe again, and hopefully in terms of international travel, of course we can't even talk about that right now because it's all up in the air. We shall see how this whole issue relating to vaccines will develop over the next couple of months, but obviously between now and December, hopefully as the restrictions lift off, we should be able to see a bit more travel, domestic travel, I suppose, and domestic tourism and things like that. But I think across Europe and the US, it's not looking good. And I think if you follow me on Instagram, I did, of course, indicate that I sense the fact that I think by the time we go to December, the second wave will be in full scale in Europe and in the US. And of course, nobody wishes that. But it's also saying earlier before that, we're starting to see some of the restrictions starting to be put back on. That is across Europe. And of course, we got the US elections coming up. There's a range of things going on. And and of course, one other thing I want to mention as well is the fact that we're seeing also, of course, the Aussie dollar continue to be strong against the US. I think if I remember, beginning of August, just like around 69 cents, but currently it's about 73 cents. That basically one Australian dollar gauge 73 cents, which is of course better than what it was beginning of August when it was hovering around the 68 cents, 69 cents mark. So we're starting to see that the Aussie dollar is really, continue to gain strength with each new month. And of course, we shall see how this whole thing translates as we get into the US elections and stuff like that. And of course, a lot of movement relating to the strong exchange over the last couple of weeks. So and I think one of the things I'm gonna mention as well is like this whole issue of a pastor that gunned down his wife in front of a bank daylight. That was intense. That is intense. And when new information is coming up relating to the culture of the church, new information is coming up relating to what the guy was preaching, and also relating to the scenario, the circumstances around in which this guy met this lady and all range of things. But I think one of the videos that I saw I think that was shot a few days before the actual incident itself, where the guy actually threatened. That was caught on video. The guy threatening the other guy, saying, "If I don't kill your sister, I'll be fake," something like that. And then a few days, but it was caught on camera. And I know this is not the end. They're gonna have the videos popping up, but I think there has been a lot of talk about the range of things. But I'm not gonna get into those at this point. But the only good thing that has come about of this is possibly the fact that it has allowed people to engage in discussions relating to domestic violence, abuse in the church, and not only in the church but also domestic violence outside of the church. Because I think we know that Australia, in terms of statistics related to domestic violence, Australia has been basically in a crisis related to that. And but I think the only positive thing that sort of come out of this is we have to redefine what what a healthy relationship is. That's one. And also things like, where do people go? Because one of the ladies that attended this church, one of the things she said is when she started going to this church, I think she said something like she was homeless. Nobody knew, even the pastor didn't know. So just kind of for highlighting the fact that I think sometimes a lot of people are going through things, but because they don't find a way or they don't find an avenue to share that, it creates complications. Because even one of the guys who seem to be, I think we're preaching this guy's church, says along things along the same along the lines of saying that he had an issue with that in terms of how some of the things that this guy was going through, that it became a burden unto himself. He didn't find probably some right people to talk to, and I think this is where people gotta be more open to consult professionals when it comes like that, because sometimes people are feeling trapped in relationships. So sometimes that non-judgmental ear from somebody who's a professional sometimes can help in identifying what one can do, because at the end of the day, I think nobody deserves to die, nobody deserves to be injured or anything like that because of a relationship. Nobody deserves to do that. So I think that's one of the things we can take away in the sense that with all this, it is allowing people to have the conversation to say, okay, fine, if a relationship is toxic, what should we do? And because obviously by the time someone gets gunned down, this thing was there was a lot going on, and I think that's one of the things that a lot of people will discover as well in the next few weeks, next few months, that there was a lot going on. By the time that someone gets shot, somebody gets gunned down, there's a lot that will have been taking place that drives a man to that, or woman to that point. But yeah, this is complex. I'm not gonna say much at this point because I think yeah, because there is the whole investigation is related to that, and of course there's more information that's gonna come out of. There's a lot of information that people are not aware of, but I think some of the information is starting to come through. Some of the members of the church and some of the guys were close to this guy, and of course the whole issue around the culture of the church, what this guy was preaching, his doctrines, and what went wrong. And one of the things that one of the guys who was pushing his church was talking about the fact that it looks like this guy had allowed Syrian people to come and preach his church, and she was basically giving a warning to the young pastors that be careful in your bid, in your quest to search for fame. You start attaching yourself to Bishop so and so, Bishop so and so, because he's basically saying that some of them have got questionable motives and agendas and characters. And I think that's something to take note of, because I know sometimes when people are studying ministry, there's a tendency to try and attach themselves to this big person, this big person, this big person, in the hope that that'll grow a church, that'll grow a ministry. But sometimes it's dangerous as information is coming out. But I think that's something that I wanted to share into that, because I think this guy shared quite a few points. But the most important thing right now at this point, I think, is issues around discussing issues around how yes, some of those things to say, okay, in the midst of a crisis, what happens? And in the midst of, let's say someone threatens you, what happens? What should you do? But I think the guys in the video that surfaced in the last few days when this guy was threatening this lady, I think the guys that were in that room took that seriously, and I think they were going to take a few things according to what the video was suggesting. But of course, there's a whole range of information. There's a whole lot of misinformation that we don't know, because you only see part of the video, so you cannot give a full comment on what's up. But obviously, the next few days, next few weeks, we're going to see a lot more information coming to the surface. That I think that we're saying the most important thing at this point is discussions around domestic violence, both inside and outside the church. How do we handle that? If you're under pressure, if you're in a relationship that is toxic, how do we handle that? How do you escape? How do you vent? Those kind of issues are serious, because at the end of the day, if people are feeling trapped, whether in just a dating relationship setup or in maybe in a marriage situation, what should they do? So this is what I was saying. One of the reasons I was saying that sometimes it does help for people to have an open mind relating to getting professionals to come in, because professionals, they deal with these things a lot of times on a daily basis. So sometimes it's easy for them to see a blind spot you're not seeing. These are some of the issues that's happening. But in saying that, I think if you know me from a long time, even from Common Destiny partner, even to head with Jezebel, I've always been someone who's been always pro, healthy relationships, because I'm pro purpose. And one thing that I know for sure that affects purpose is this area of relationships. And we know, and if you read Uncommon Destiny, or if you haven't, I've always made it clear that a lot of ministries have come down because of a wrong relationship that went wrong. Ministries have gone down in flames. Promising ministries have gone down in flames because of a relationship that went haywire. Amazing careers, illustrious careers, presidents have gone down because of a relationship, or sometimes because of an entanglement. And I think this is a classic case where you're seeing that this guy, as far as promising as his ministry was, it's all gone because at the end of the day, he committed murder. That's number one. Number two, a lost life has been lost before he even go to the ministry. The fact that someone lost their life because of the relation. That's the most tragic part. And then of course we're gonna talk about ministry or the other stuff. That ministry is already gone because this guy probably 9 out of 10 there's gonna be much serious sentence that's gonna take place. So basically that's ministry gone just like that. Again, it's a relationship. So again, I suppose these are some of the things that I was trying to address when I wrote Accommodation Partner, and of course in Head to Head with Jezebel. The good news as well is you can get it on Amazon. It's now in print, and of course this is Accommodation Partner. I did include 3 times a day, Jezebel. One of the reasons why I'm very passionate about that is let's just say in the past I've been in some situations. I'll leave it at that. If you, yeah, but and of course the other factor, of course, is the fact that I've always say, look, I'm pro relationship that are healthy, relationship that's got good boundaries, the relationship that allows somebody to thrive, whether it's a dating relationship, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a romantic relationship, and of course when you get up the ante when you start looking at marriage, which is a whole different ballgame altogether. I'm not gonna get into that, but of course before you get to the marriage, you want to talk about the dating process and commitment and all the other stuff. So yeah, so of course those are serious issues. Those are serious issues, and it's not something to take lightly because at the end of the day, one of the things you see that a lot of people are not comfortable talking about, and I think somebody commented, I think it must have been Patience from the UK. Patience, if you're watching, how are you doing? Or commented relating the fact that I think in the church people are not comfortable talking about narcissists. They are narcissists on some pulpits. They are narcissists in church. They're narcissists outside. But I think in the church, the problem is some of those things, they're a bit taboo because people expect that when someone goes to church, there's the whole things like, they're going to be nice and all this stuff. But look, the bottom line is people, when they come to church, everyone is coming with their own issues, their burdens and stuff like that, which is everybody gets that. I think there's got to be mechanisms where if it comes an issue of, violating somebody, you're violating somebody through gossip, through attitude, through any other things. We gotta have those boundaries. And sometimes it's not the pews where the abuse is coming from. How do we handle that if the abuse is coming from the pulpit? And this year has been one of the things that I've seen in 2020 is the fact that there's been a lot of cases of abuse that are being brought out into the mainstream. And it's toxic. It is just toxic. I'm telling you. And for someone who goes to church where everything's lovey-dovey, God bless you. But you cannot discount the fact that the other people in other parts of the world were going through stuff because maybe the pastor is abusive, the pastor is narcissist, the pastor is controlling, all those things, So suppose when I wrote Head to Head with Jezebel, those are some of the things that I wanted to address, and I did address those things. But I think it's at that point I had no idea that things are going to get worse to the point where we're seeing all these things at this level, where some unimaginable things are happening in churches. And the worst part is when people go to church with their issue, they expect to confide in the pastor. They expect the pastor to be the shepherd. They expect that when I talk to a pastor, I'm in comfortable hands. When I talk to a pastor or anyone in leadership, I am in a place of I can be vulnerable. But then it is ugly and it's toxic when that person is betrayed by a pastor, is betrayed by someone in leadership. They're twisting to drive their own agenda, and a whole range of things are happening that I'm not going to get into. But I think at the end of the day, as people in the church, we cannot continue to play a blind eye to these things, because at the end of the day, it could be your brother, it could be your sister, it could be your mother, it could be your father, it could be anybody closely to you. So there's got to be that consciousness of saying, okay, fine, if you go in a good church, everything is lovey-dovey, bless God. But in saying that, you cannot discount the fact of that there's certain these things that are happening, because at the end of the day, some people are just vulnerable. Some people are just innocent people that are just walking into church. They know nothing about church. Okay, they've got their own problems just like everybody else. They're looking for help. So in the process of being vulnerable to maybe to a leader, to a pastor, to all those things, because every church has got its culture. I talk about them head to head with Jezebel as well. And that's one of the things I talk about in terms of some of the key things to look at for joining in the church. That's a whole different topic of another day. But the most important thing I wanted to address today is this issue around abuse. How do we handle that? Because at the end of the day, people are going through burdens that they can explain, burdens that are picking up from church. It should be the other way around. You come to church with your burdens, you go in church, you leave your burdens. Come 4 o'clock, whatever time the church is over, you go home, you feel light. But some people, it's the reverse. They come to church in a better way, but then by the time they leave, they're going through so much that's coming from the church, whether it's abuse, whether it's toxic behavior, all those things. And I think the time has come for the church not to pretend like everything is lovey-dovey. Yes, we can sing all amazing songs, but we gotta address some things. And I think this is one of the things that happened in 2020, that a lot of ministries have been exposed for who they really are. And you're gonna see that as we move into the next few years, there's gonna be a lot of question marks relating to this whole mega church movement. I'm not for mega church. I'm not for small church. I'm for God's agenda. In other words, if a mega church is doing things God's way, people are happy, no one is getting abused, and things are happening, bless God. If it's a small church, God is getting preached, people are getting saved, people are getting delivered, bless God. I'm not pro mega church. I'm not pro small church. I'm where God's work is being done. Let's just make that clear, because I know when I come and sometimes I say some things, people want to twist what I said. No, I'll just repeat that again for you. I'm not pro mega church. I'm not pro small church. I am pro God. As long as God's work is being done, people are getting saved, people are getting healed, people are getting delivered. Bless God. Whether it's a mega church or small church, I don't care. I'm good with that. But in saying that, one of the things you've seen is that over the last couple of years, we've seen scandal after scandal, this mega church, pastors cheating, all that stuff. You're going to see that in the next few years, there's going to be a lot of issues around this mega church movement, to the point where some people are going to start coming back to the basics. Us are going to start really leaning more towards the nimble, agile church. The nimble, agile church. There's a whole range of things going on out there. But the most important thing I want to address today is the fact that, guys, we cannot pretend like all is well when we know that there's a lot of toxicity that is happening. Some people right now, you can't talk to them about God. You can't. You can't at all. Why? Because they've been through the system. They know the gymnastics. They've seen the gymnastics. They've seen the manipulation. They've seen the abuse. They've seen the toxic. Some of them have come from a place where they've been hurt to the point where they found refuge in the marketplace, maybe through a counselor, through a psychologist, to the point right now they don't want to hear anything about church. Why? Because they've been through the system. They've seen all the theatrics. They've seen all the gymnastics, all the abuse, they have been through that. So to them, if you come to talk about God, they get upset. Now I gotta say something here, which is there's a difference between God and the church. You can have an amazing relationship with God, and you can also be in a place where you find there are sort of issues in churches. Those two things are different. I made that point as well in How to Jezebel, because at the end of the day, sometimes it's easy for people to confuse the two between what they see in church and God. Those two things are different, because God is sovereign. God is powerful. He knows everything. Whereas church, you're going to a part which is what, if you look at church systems, they are man-made. Most of them man-made. That when people are decided that we're going to run this church this way, ushers are going to do this is going to do this, good is going to do this. See, that's man-made. So if it's man-made, there's bound to be imperfections. It is what it is. No church is perfect, and I get that. But in saying that, people gotta have that understanding that, okay, fine, these are two different things. If it's a church, they are bound to be imperfections, because you're dealing with people, but God is not like that. Sometimes people can represent God well. Sometimes people may misrepresent God. Those things do happen. So in saying that, I'm gonna pause for a bit and then just quickly give you guys 3 common mistakes that new authors make, and then I'm gonna call it a day. But look, sorry if I got emotional. I know I do, because I'm very, very sensitive about this thing. That's one of the reasons I suppose God had me move in those directions of talking about those things, and of course writing about those things. So right now I'm gonna give you guys 3 common mistakes that new authors make. Number one is lack of clarity on the purpose and the vision of the book, because you gotta do the work before you even write the book, in terms of who the book is for and those are the things. So lack of clarity on the purpose and the vision of the book, definitely that's a big mistake that new authors make. Number 2, lack of knowledge in terms of the market you're targeting, understanding how that market is structured and the nuances around that. That's a big mistake as well. And then of course the third one, common one, it's a poor title. You can have an amazing book, You can have an amazing book, right? But if the title is off, that can throw 5 months, 6 months of work into the drain. Some people worked on their books for 2, 3 years, whatever, but then they made a mistake on the side of the title, and they catastrophic results. And the flip side, some people as well, they maybe had a wrong title, and then spoke to someone, changed the title, and the book took off. Those are some of the things that can happen. But in saying that, if you want to have a chat about your book, of course, DM me and we can schedule a 30-minute chat and see what's up. And then, of course, if you want further help, we can then work on that. But if you need help relating to your book, you're stuck and stuff like that, of course, you can always DM me. Now, just saying that the day someone inboxed me in one of the social networks, and they said I've been wanting to write my book for the last, I think, couple of years, and my response was to them, look, if God wants to use this book and you'll be delaying this much, it means as long as this book is not out, God can't use it, because God can only use it when the book is complete, when it is manifested. So it basically means that the longer you delay, if God spoke to you about writing the book and having it complete and stuff, so it means the longer you delay, you're simply delaying whatever God wants to do through the book. It's up to you. That was my response. So, but anyway, I think that hit something with the person, and anyway, yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that. So if that's you, you've been want to write a book, you're feeling stuck, whatever the case might be, no judgment. Whether I've been working on it for 4 or 5 years, you're still not sure, that sort of thing. Reach out to my DM, and we can organize a call. We can have a chat for 30 minutes and stuff like that. In saying that, guys, thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys soon. And enjoy the rest of your weekend. And always remember, you have an uncommon destiny. And of course, for all the other stuff I was talking about relationships, you can check out Uncommon Destiny Partner. And of course, the good news as well is that Head to Head with Jezebel is now available in print, same as Unleash the Book Within. You can also get that in print as well. Now, that Unleash the Book Within is more for someone who wants to write a book. When you start, you're wanting something to read, something to just give you an idea of what this is about. You can get that as well. And then, of course, for one-on-one chat with me, inbox me, and we can proceed from there. So on that note, guys, always remember, you have an uncommon destiny. This is your Studio Wiz. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.